Oh, hey, we are live, but nobody knows that yet because everybody is coming at 7:30 Eastern.
We're the speakeasy right now. If you want to get in,
we're the old people. We got to get to bed, right?
You know what I noticed on the opening for the first time because I was looking for it?
What's that?
There's 2 close-ups of Hall of Fame plaques, Jackie and Willie Mays.
Yeah. You know who isn't in there? Josh Gibson. But we'll talk about that maybe in a few. Nobody's in that. No Josh Gibson in that video at all.
And there's not actually.
I believe you're the one who put this together, right?
I'm embarrassed that there's Nolan Ryan in there. I was trying to make everybody happy. I took a barely better than 500 pitcher, and I put him in. And I missed Josh Gibson.
They call them accumulators, right?
He's really the Harold Baines of pitching.
He is. Who? Somebody hit for a lot longer. Oh,
I'm gonna get killed.
Jackwagon. Cap Anson was an accumulator too, and also a vicious racist.
I'm gonna get killed by our friends that worship Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, well, that's all right, man. It's time to pick a new goat, right? Nolan Ryan wins because again, the hobby's run by junk wax era kids, and rightfully so. This is their time, and Nolan Ryan is the godfather of junk wax. In fact, I just sold on my eBay store 17 different Pacific Advil Nolan Ryan cards this week, when the guy probably could have bought the set for $9.99. He spent $2.02 times 17.
So, I hope he's watching.
I hope that guy or gal is watching. I hope they get their cards and they enjoy their Pacific Advil Nolan Ryan.
I feel like it would be a guy because I feel like a gal would be smarter.
Yeah. We're going to run into the chat here real quick. Ruben's here, and Ruben will be at the National. Rumor has it, right? Vintage Goats.
It has been so long since I have not engineered. I'm sitting back. You go, buddy.
You eyes up here, everybody. Don't look at Danny's belly button and his treasure chest running down to his nubbies. John's here from West Coast. West Coast is here. Must be punching out early, huh? Process. Always trust the process. Baltimore have a team? No, they don't have a team, right? They lost the Baltimore Bullets, I assume, and Washington Bullets. Washington lost the Bullets too, apparently. Who else we got? Ruben's back again. Way to go, Danny. Way to let us down. You're better than this. All right. Well, I guess people expect more. Mike Petty's here, and hopefully I'll be able to see Mike Petty in a couple weeks. He doesn't know that. But we'll get to these comments a little bit here. Chris from Missouri's here. He is in, I don't know what time zone, the Yukon time zone. What is Missouri? Are they an hour, 2, 3, 4.5 behind us?
I don't know. Let Chris tell us.
Who knows? Danny, are you drunk again? Did you just hit the happy hour TGI Fridays? You're slurring your speech, man.
I had Panda Express.
Okay. You're 1 hour behind. Thank you, Chris. Horrible with math here. Steel City is here as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about what Mike Petty is throwing at us. And Mike Petty and I are probably similar of mind here. Hey, boys, Josh Gibson played less games per season than Trout, but he passes Cobb in batting average. Not enough plate appearances to qualify. Cobb's cards are tanking now, down 70%. I think that last line might be a throwaway. But the Josh Gibson news, wonderful, great for all of you Josh Gibson speculators and flippers. But
are we assuming that everybody knows what happened?
Yeah, you tell them. You're less angry about it than I am.
Well, a group of people have been working decades to try to accumulate Negro League box scores, and they've decided to take the in-league games only. And there was a lot of barnstorming, but the in-league games only, and merge those with Major League Baseball statistics and make basically a one list but there's different scales for plate appearances per game, and some other tweaks that make it maybe a little bit apples to oranges, which we shouldn't have separate but equal.
In what world does somebody who never played in Major League Baseball hold the records for Major League Baseball? Why do we think that is? Listen, I am an advocate for integration. And again, as I said at the top of the show, Cap Anson could burn in hell several times over, and it wouldn't be enough. I also don't believe that stats before 1901 matter much either, because
Well, you're going to head down one of my arguments in a second here.
but why are we thinking, or why are we saying that? I mean, there is no doubt that Josh Gibson was an incredible hitter. Do we know how many games the Negro League season was at this point? Because it seems to vary, does it not?
It seems to be between 60 and 80 is what I'm saying,
Okay.
what I believe that they said. But if you know anything about Negro League history, they played as many games barnstorming as
I
they
know.
did
Yeah.
intra-league. And the stats on those are not counted, and rightfully so, because most of them weren't kept.
We get that.
Um,
Yeah, we get. I mean, that's obvious. We know that, and that's how teams survived back then, right? That's how Negro Leagues, they had to play a league game or a doubleheader. Then
because they weren't allowed to play in the majors, that
right.
wasn't their decision. So to
I
answer
get
your
that. I
question,
get that.
why did they get to be in there? Because they wanted to be and they couldn't be, and now they are.
Well, where do we stop? Um, where do we stop? Japan, Taiwan, Mike Petty, San Fernando Valley Little League,
I, I,
1972.
I think there's two different discussions here. Do we believe that we should honor the Negro League players' statistics? And then do we compare them equally on a ratio by ratio basis with different sample sizes?
Interesting that you had interesting. Here we go. This is, I mean, if this isn't recognized by um, Major League Baseball, I don't know. I don't know what should be. Here, I mean, listen, again, it makes me sound like Archie Bunker when I say this, but
A little bit.
the African American, well, thanks, the African American population was 10%, right? So if you're filling out teams and leagues with 10% versus 90%, which what the white fellas had the monopoly on back then. So it seems to me it isn't a full sampling size of
But
players.
career stats are. So, what do I care if Josh Gibson is the career leader in OPS, but you don't want him to have the single season record? To me, that's splitting hairs. Who cares? I mean, he's got 2,000 career bats. That would qualify him. Um,
Yeah, I just I think
it's Archie Bunker to say, I don't want the season stat to count, but I have to allow the career stat to count.
I don't know. I don't know if either. I think they both can be recognized, the career and the season. And Baseball Reference does that more so for a comparison, I think, than anything. And listen, these folks in those leagues were also up against some terrible conditions. Buses, all that fun stuff. And I just, I just feel like they didn't get the opportunity. I get that, but it doesn't mean we should have theoretical career
No,
leaders and stuff.
what's the difference between the different height in the mound, the dead ball era, steroids?
Right. Well, exactly. Right. If you're going to recognize that, you're not going to recognize Barry Bonds as being your home run leader, which a lot of people
Well,
don't. Right.
but now you're making a valid point. I agree with you. Let's let Barry in, and everything's kosher.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I've always had
How many guys hit 400 pre 1920, and how many guys hit 400 after 1920?
Well,
That's all you need
it
to
was a
know.
different game, right?
Well, that's my
What
point.
happened in the late '60s as well, right? With the ERAs and all that stuff.
Right, when they changed the mound.
Right. Yeah, but again, you're talking about people that played, that we define these people as playing in the major leagues under circumstances that none of us obviously would ordain as being ethically correct, right, or morally correct. Yet they didn't play in the major leagues. So I just feel like that's
But did the game
something
that
that should be
Willie
kind of.
was playing, was that any more professional?
What was that?
Like Wee Willie Keeler and the games they were playing. Well, they
I
weren't
don't
any
see.
more.
I don't. Listen, man. I don't agree with that either. I mean, Cy Young, for as good as Cy Young or as great as Cy Young was, man, it's like, what were the conditions prior to the turn of the century and the standards? More importantly, the standards, right?
But statistics tell stories, so we have them in there to tell the stories, which is why I begrudgingly agree with you. Steroid guy should be in because it's part of the story,
right,
of the history of baseball. Jackie Robinson doesn't mean anything without Josh Gibson. Not, you know what I mean.
I don't, but let me get back to that. I'll have to write that down and see if I do understand what that says. I'm going to put the link here in case anybody wants to jump in as well. We'll let most people on as long as they don't agree with Danny. But let's look at some chat here. Obviously, Steel City. I got to say, I love the decision. All I'll say is Tim Keefe holds the Major League Baseball single season ERA record, and was not in the Major League Baseball, and no one has ever said a word about it. He played in a league with 8 teams. See, I agree with this premise as well. Like, again, I have, in my mind, and I felt like this for a very long time prior to probably the last 40 years when I started really getting into baseball through the cards, late 70s, early 80s. I just don't get the turn of this, I don't get the 19th century stuff because it was so fragmented and there was no, there was a bunch of different random organizations, and I just don't. I don't believe in that. And then I know we have the AL and the NL rules and all that fun stuff starting from the early 70s, but it just, again, they didn't play in Major League Baseball. Therefore, I think that I don't know. It doesn't make Josh Gibson any better in my mind. Maybe, put some more eyeballs on his career stats or those that have been recorded, but it doesn't, for those of us that know, which is most educated people in the hobby, then, Josh Gibson isn't suddenly hot, I would think.
Josh Gibson didn't hit another home run just now. All of a sudden, people who were not as educated get exposed.
Is he the biggest winner in all this? Because that's all I've heard is Josh Gibson. I haven't heard.
I think it's Oscar Charleston.
Oscar Charleston as well. Okay,
I think he's the best player who most people don't know.
I would give my middle nut to go back and see a Negro League game back in the day. You know what I mean? Homestead Grays or the Monarchs or whatever. I have a few, that I'd like to see. The early, the 1910s, 11s, Philadelphia Athletics, same with the 30s. Love to see all those guys, man. It would absolutely be incredible. And, to give those fellas credit, not only their travel schedules and their travel mechanisms, but I guarantee you they weren't playing with the greatest bats and the greatest of balls, right? And
or sleeping in a hotel every night.
Yeah. I mean, it is known that those white fellas who own the baseball teams and stadiums didn't mind taking the money and renting the stadium out to the Negro Leagues, obviously to make money. But it just shows more of the hypocrisy and all that stuff, right? Make money, but don't let them play with our fellas. And speaking of fellas, Bob Feller was, for all the nonsense Bob Feller gets sometimes, and outspokenness, he spent a lot of time barnstorming with Negro League players.
Yes. Bob Feller was an interesting dude.
Yeah, sure was.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Let's see here. We got Staying Alive. Can't wait for Staying Alive. Not sure what that is. Congratulations to all those folks who deserve to be in the record books through their exploits on various fields and various leagues. Really, we're all winners. I think Josh Gibson will have blazed the path for us, for all of us to get in the record books, I suppose, right?
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. All right, Danny. All right, man. I feel like I'm wearing you out here.
No.
I think your sea breeze buzz is wearing off or something.
My Seabreeze Buzz. You're convinced I came in three sheets. Maybe I did.
Okay.
ZWX. So
Let's
does
see.
Campanella get his stats from when he was 15? Because he played for Baltimore, by the way.
Baltimore.
Baltimore Hun.
Let
He
me
played
see
for the
here.
Baltimore Elite Giants.
Elites. Yep. Thank you for saying that properly.
Come on
He
now.
did. But that's the Negro 2s. Negro National League 2. Is that different than, because there was a bunch of different Negro leagues,
Well,
right?
they listed all the leagues that they're counting.
Oh, okay.
I don't have the list in front of me, but they did specifically put the leagues and the years. And they did say they only have what they estimated was 75% of the box scores.
Yeah. Well, so
I'm
what
just
happens
curious.
if Josh Gibson won on an 0 for 99?
That's my point.
So why are we making this official if it's not official?
They found RBIs on Hack Wilson, didn't they?
Yeah. By the way, I'll give you $5 if you could tell me what Hack Wilson's given name is.
That's a great question.
So Hack Wilson played in Chicago. Oddly enough, his name is Lewis Robert Wilson. He's the original. He's the original Lou Bob. So pretty fun stuff, huh?
Lou Bob Wilson, the RBI champ.
Lou Bob, the original Lou Bob. Different eras, but they were the best of their days. Yep, absolutely. But I wonder how, a lot of players went to Cuba and stuff like that and played Orlando. I wonder, do their records count as well? A lot of Negro leaguers went down there to play.
Yep.
Talk about Chris here again. Good point from Chris. Campy played 9 years in Negro League, Mexican leagues. All stats should count. Campy's stats weren't that incredible. He had a couple good seasons but again, you're talking about the logs of 30 to 40 games, except for 1945. There aren't a lot of games, so it's kind of an incomplete picture. With that said, some of you folks out there would be fascinated to know, if you probably already know, that like even in the dead ball era, they weren't keeping correct stats, and it would take days, weeks, months, and decades to really get a feel for what those stats were.
Things that have changed over time, like the sacrifice fly?
Yeah, sure. You could talk about that. I mean, if you want to really.
Well, just we hold these stats to be sacred, but rules have changed over time. And
Right.
sacrifice fly at some points was considered an out and an at bat, as opposed to now where it's not an at bat.
It's still a plate appearance, though, right?
It's still a plate appearance.
Yeah. So I have a few things here. Hold on a second. We have a little bit of a cat fight going on here. Orlando, I'm not suggesting Tim Keefe doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame any more than I'm suggesting Josh Gibson doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Okay, it sounds like everybody's kissed and made up. So thanks for working that out amongst yourselves before bringing it to the committee.
And way to get Tim Keefe some love tonight.
I sold a Tim Keefe. I've sold 2 Tim Keefe cards.
You've been drinking?
Yeah, I can't. I have a lisp. The Perez, the Dick Perez, recent Dick Perez set has a Tim Keefe, and I sold one right away for like $19.99. And then the guy writes back to me, "Hey, any other Tim Keefe cards you have, please let me know." And I was like, "Dude, I don't have any other Tim Keefe cards, but there's people out there."
I PC him. That was my only double.
Yeah, I actually had 2 on there. I think I've sold them both, but it's funny. So yeah, I'm sure this isn't. Topps will make cards with more Negro League players. What's going to be interesting about that, Ruben, is Topps will make cards with Negro League players with stats, but those stats could be different, in another couple of years when they put out another set. So that is something that may or may not be a concern for some people. Yeah, it's that is. I have a lot of Negro League cards. I think there was a set in the 70s, right? That was Negro League stars or whatever. But then I remember the first big.
Are you talking about the brown ones?
Yeah. The first big one, though, and I thought was a brilliant move, was the Ted Williams Card Company put out a lot of Negro League stuff in the early 90s. So I have a lot of those. Those still sell, because I sell my duplicates. So they still sell, and it would be nice to have a comprehensive set. But is there a comprehensive is there a comprehensive list of players that played, or
I
it
have a
seems it's
book.
kind of like jazz.
I have a book. Didn't
I'll stall for you. I'll read from Scott, the book of Scott here. I have a newspaper story on Gibson hitting a called shot in my hometown field. Scott either lives in North Dakota, Minnesota, or Oklahoma, so I'm not sure where his hometown is. Where I played Little League, Babe Ruth was in the Legion and Schoolfield. Satchel was there too. So this kind of concerns me if Josh Gibson's stats were accumulated on Little League fields. Okay. You know
or
what I
maybe
mean?
he played Little League on a full size field.
Okay, well, those farm boys do know how to do things differently up there.
That's
So,
hysterical. Anyway, so Greg Kreinler, the artist, I
uh-huh.
thought he did a complete Negro League set for the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
It's an art card set, beautifully done.
But who that would have been a postcard thing that the Hall released, I guess. It
It
isn't
was a
a
limited edition cards set.
okay. Wonder who made that.
It would have been through the Hall, and I have the book that went with it. I need to find that.
See, one of the fun and fascinating things about this is the fact that Josh Gibson doesn't have any, real playing day cards. I think he's got one card or something, or I don't even know if he's got that, but that's one of the fascinating things about this is hobbyists in true hobby fashion can't celebrate by going out and buying, a bunch of Josh Gibson playing day cards, which is part of the torture, right? It's like, it's part of the torture of being a hobbyist.
Well, the reverse is guys that we can buy. Which major leaguer who played in the Negro Leagues is the greatest? Mays, Aaron.
Well, you know what? You may have tripped over yourself there because Mays and Aaron, I don't know, maybe Mays is, but Aaron is not recognized as being a Negro leaguer according to the stats because of
he was not in one of those leagues.
He was not in one of those leagues. Mays may be the same in the same boat as well. Probably somebody like Scott or Orlando or Mike Petty might know that better. But I know the reason I know this is I lost out on baseball immaculate grid because I picked Aaron as a Negro League player and no dice. So yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, Campy was from Philadelphia too, so don't claim him as yours, Scott.
He played.
Yeah, there's another debate on quality, right? The major leagues, like I said, just because of the demographics of the time, 90% white, 10% black or African American in the country, you assume that there were, you would assume statistically that there were more greater white players. That's what a statistician would assume, right? So who knows what the quality of the leagues are? I know we know that a lot of incredible players came out of the Negro Leagues and certainly held their own in the big leagues. But I don't know. I don't know if we can. That's why I try to not compare directly the leagues, those separate leagues.
My biggest thing is that baseball has already combined, and you and I agree on this, separate eras in their history.
Yeah, for sure.
And to me, this was just adding a missing piece.
Yeah, I get it.
If you don't want the Negro League stats mixed in, dead ball shouldn't be either.
Well, I think Lefty Grove's stats should be combined then as well because he was held back by your Baltimoreans from coming into the big league. Still he had already had 100 minor league wins, so he was pitching against quality opponents and accumulating 100 wins, and he still pitched for 300. I know we talk about Ichiro, right? And but those records aren't official, right? His Japan League stuff, Nippon League stuff doesn't count towards his major league totals, does it?
Correct, but he was allowed to play in the majors.
I get it, man. I understand that. It's the same thing. Like, listen, my people came off a boat in Ireland in the 1920s. We had nothing to do with this, so don't keep pointing a finger at me, Danny.
I'm not pointing it at you. I'm just saying why is it fair to combine them?
Why is it or isn't it?
You asked why should
I mean, like I said, I just don't. worship at the altar of Josh Gibson. I just recognize that, he didn't do it on the same fields as the other one. I understand he wasn't given a chance, but I said on Twitter, take away if you really want to make a statement. Nobody's saying they're supposed to be making a statement, but if you really want to make a statement, then take away all Cap Anson's stats, every one of them. Okay, just banish him from all the record books, and then maybe you'll have me on your side then, because that guy did more to harm baseball than anybody in its existence.
Do you want to go into more detail? Because I'm glad you're bringing that up.
Bring it.
He didn't like a lot of people.
Who?
Cap.
Then why do we have to like him? Why do we have to?
We don't have to. I'm happy.
Well, again, he falls into the two deep holes for me. Pre 19th century stuff and just being the biggest dick in baseball history. So I
thought that was Milton Berle. No.
No, that's the biggest dick in the Catskills. Come on, there's a difference.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, you and I probably the only people that know that about Milton Berle, which is scary, right?
I you know what? Somehow I knew that you would get that, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, there you go. John says he didn't even have him in his lifetime. I think that one that was.
Well, he does have.
He has that one from 1949 or 50, but he was dead by then, right?
Yeah.
He died 45.
In his literal lifetime. Yes.
Yeah, in his literal lifetime there. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But then again, Scott immediately says we have got a postcard. Scott knows his postcards like nobody else.
How do you feel about postcards? Just curious.
Well, first of all, for this guy right here, this guy is should be a hobby genius, Scott, because he is like the king of exhibit cards and stuff like that. And he was on that. I don't even know if it's not even a trend right now. It's a full blown, thing, movement. And there may be one or two that he doesn't have, but I think it's great that we're discovering stuff like that. I have a bunch of postcards. I have the Hall of Fame plaque postcards. I have stadium postcards. I have a lot of postcards that are both, recognized and not recognized by Beckett, but it really is, it's fun because same as cards, they depict a story and tell a story. And, I have up there somewhere, I have an Astrodome postcard from the mid 60s, which is brilliant, so. Love postcards.
So yeah.
Yeah, and they're fun, man. I have all sorts of postcards. So yeah, good stuff. A lot of activity in the chat, and this is why Danny should be engineering. And I apologize, everybody. Boy, it would be nice to see Don Newcomb make the Hall of Fame because he was who did he play for? New Jersey? Was it the Newark Eagles or something? And what's interesting about that is I think I may be wrong, but I think Effa Manley was the owner of that team, and she's in the Hall of Fame. But Newark Eagles, a couple mediocre seasons there, but he really came on into the bigs. He came in big at the age of 20. Yeah, 49. He was 17-8. Man, he was Rookie of the Year.
Well, I mean his Cy Young MVP year. Yeah,
and that's another guy who Don Newcomb's another guy who went away, played Army for a while, and 52 and 53, and he was first 3 seasons 17, 19, and 20 wins, right? And then he goes to Korea or military service, has another couple good seasons after that, but done in by the bottle and stuff like that. But man, he really was the first great black big major league pitcher. To break into the bigs, not the white the integrated bigs, I should say,
and to win the awards.
Yeah. I mean, Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. Not a lot of people have done that, right? So that's he certainly did that. But I agree that he belongs in there, man. And it's like a lot of these guys struggled with alcoholism, right? Because they weren't simply going to work every day. They were going to get ridiculed and have stuff thrown at them, stay in second class accommodations, stuff like that. And we as a society just wreck these people. And I know there's a lot of cases of that alcoholism running rampant or not even running rampant, even being an undercurrent for a lot of these players that were on the forefront of integration.
I mean, without even talking about that, I mean, you can just see Jackie Robinson physically. What happened to him?
Well, he died in his 50s, right?
I mean, and you know, if you don't believe there was a physical toll on him, I mean that he looked about 80 when he passed, and like you said, he was in his 50s.
Well, that's why people like Willie Mays and Henry Aaron are more incredible than they are. Hank Aaron went through crap and all throughout his career, and it essentially it peaked at the end. When he was getting the home run record, it's amazing what he had to deal with. Yep. And he handled it one way. Willie Mays was strong in another way. Willie Mays was himself all the time, everywhere. So it just goes to show you how incredible these players were. Willie Mays, it's something that's taken me a long time to realize, but Willie Mays was, most people would say the greatest baseball player ever, and think about Willie Mays if he hadn't spent more than half his career at Candlestick Park, an unenclosed Candlestick Park, I should say, right? He started with the Birmingham Black Barons, right? I don't know whether that's a major Negro League, but yeah, man, the guy just kept putting up season after season. His peak years, and again in an unenclosed Candlestick Park. So,
well, I mean, how many homers would he have hit in Philadelphia?
Well, here's a question for you. Without, I don't have my calculator in order to do that. But how many homers would he have hit if he had stayed in the Polo Grounds, man? With the short porches, right?
You still had center field. I mean,
still had center field, but I haven't looked at the straight chart.
By a break, he had two stadiums, and he couldn't get. Center field was huge on both.
He's the greasiest center fielder. I don't know. I don't know if that's nice. Yeah, I don't know if that's appropriate. Vintage folks. Yeah, but this is my point here. John knows he's a San Francisco fanboy, but Candlestick is if you ever saw the hot dog wrappers floating around Candlestick back in the mid 70s, and I can't imagine you could see old footage of the 60s before it was enclosed. It's crazy, man. And these guys, him and McCovey, hit home runs and chase down balls and all that stuff. So, yeah, listen, we all have our own greatest and greasiest players, but and Mays isn't my favorite player. I just think for what that guy did, the tools he had, and all that stuff, he really he's considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest. Yet he still had a lot going against him, and he would have hit 800 home runs at the Polo Grounds, I'm sure.
Let me ask you a different question. If Griffey would have stayed healthy, where would you have put him compared to these guys?
Well, listen, there is a tried and true, with a few exceptions, perhaps, well, not even Mays, but Aaron is one of those rare exceptions. Aaron had some great late career seasons in the late 60s and 70s, but it's 10 and done, man. Like Trout, right? Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey. Those, you have 10 great seasons, and you hope that they're all together and stuff like that. And I think Griffey was incredible, but Griffey played on turf, and he beat the crap out of himself in the field, and that will wear you down. Griffey was, to me, if you ask me who my favorite center fielder is, it would probably be a toss-up between Griffey and DiMaggio. Griffey, I got to see, and DiMaggio I've seen through the stats, and DiMaggio's stats are incredible. But Griffey was great. He was great for the game. He was great at the game, both in the field, highlight catches, as well as at the plate. And Griffey had everything, man. He had the iconic swing. Only Willie Mays fanboys will be able to recognize Willie Mays' swing. I can kind of picture it through the cards, but Griffey was, he was iconic for sure.
I only say that because I think Mays was probably the toolsiest player, ever. But
Well, I don't know that because, as we know, everybody's got talent, but the ability to get the most, like he was able to exploit all of his tools
all
almost
five,
to the max, which is rare, right?
right?
Like
When
something
you talk
happens
about
to
all five,
someone, something happens to someone somewhere along the line. And I got this. I saw Mike Trout a couple years ago at live playing center field, and I was kind of impressed with how he moved around center field. I know that sounds dumb, but I think of him as a hitter and stuff like that. But he was moving around out there pretty good for a big guy. So, but yeah, I mean, the guy was born with a ton of gifts, Willie Mays, and he took advantage, almost full advantage of every one of them, which is a rarity.
I think his cards are actually underrated.
Yeah, and that's they're catching up though. Willie Mays, they're catching up. So, well, you have to go because Family Guy's on or something, right? So
I am the Family Guy.
you
I
are
am.
the Family Guy. Danny's got to do some.
I've been called Peter.
Danny's got to pump some milk, get it in the fridge for tomorrow. So, folks, thanks for joining us. Sorry we didn't get to everybody's comments, and as usual, there's the people in the chat room are more brilliant than the people on the screen. So
By far.
Appreciate everybody, checking in, debating with us, and debating with each other. I think that's what's great. Conversations can happen on the side, and you folks are the best, every one of you. So congrats to all of you who are having all of your records, recognized by MLB. Again, like I say all the time, I march backwards in spats playing trombone, and the fact that that's not recognized by any professional league still bothers the hell out of me. So I was a two-tool player. So anyway, goodbye, Danny. Hope you're all right. Hope you get in the.
I'm catching up on some of the comments.
It's good. hope you detox well, buddy. All right. And that's it.
Rumors.
I guess rumors are. I'm going to end this stream. I'm going to pinch it off, as they say. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Bye.